extremities intertwined, the Alpha's bullish head peeking out at the top. Of course, I had to check our heading now and then. Keeping an eye on the McKenzies meant nothing if we went wildly off course in the process. I never turned my back for long, because every time I did, I felt their gaze burning holes in my spine. I'd whip around, sure their stillness was some nasty trick, convinced they were just toying with me. Never caught them with their eyes open. 3/4 of the way there, the coffee stopped working, and I succumbed to my own sort of dormancy. My mind was blank. My gaze was empty. I was watching the McKenzies, yes, but after 4 hours of utter motionlessness, my brain stopped registering them as people. A jumble of eccentric mannequins, sure. An avant-garde, hyper-realistic sculpture, fine. But not people. How could those things be people? B-R-R-R-R-R-R-R-R-R-R-R. My entire body spasmed. Blood rushed down my neck in a series of sweltering bursts, felt I was choking on someone else's still-beating heart. I snapped forward. Ahead, a gargantuan ocean liner blared its foghorn. We were on a collision course. My shaking hands grabbed the controls. Adrenaline clawed at the tips of my vibrating fingers. I veered right. My half-filled mug catapulted from the console, shattering as it hit the deck. With only a few hairs of separation, the boat glided in parallel with the liner. The steel hull zoomed by, creating a draft that pelted me with salty air. Its monolithic shadow cast a dim curtain over the deck. My legs felt like rubber. I kept my eyes forward and forced fresh oxygen down my throat with tremoring breaths. A final crescendoing whoosh, then sunlight. I collapsed onto the console, chuckling, grinning like an idiot. The liner grew small and disappeared into the horizon. My laughter gradually dissolved. I stared at the ocean, thoughts focused solely on the steady churn of the boat as it grazed the water. I closed my eyes. An image floated through my head. Taut lips unveiling rows and rows of thick, gray molars. They shot right back open. My chest exploded from the console. I threw myself around. Bile rushed up my throat and lashed my tonsils. The bow was empty. The McKenzies were gone. Panic detonated like an atom bomb. My legs roared to life. I bolted toward the bow. This isn't happening, this isn't happening, this isn't happening. I grabbed the rail and skidded to a stop. What the fuck was I doing? The McKenzies had been flung off the ship, and the engine was still running. I was getting farther and farther from them with every passing second. I flipped around and sprinted back to the console, vertigo threatening to send me overboard as well. I drove back to where I thought I made the sharp turn. I ran feverish laps around the boat's perimeter, hanging my head over the rails. The search was pointless. There were no corpses. No still-living McKenzies thrashing to stay afloat. Just my own hysterical reflection bobbing on the tide. My life was over. I trudged back to the cockpit. My body felt unbearably heavy. My skull felt like a ball of solid lead. Joe's going to kill me. I slumped into the captain's chair. My eyes landed on my pinky stump. Or worse. Something dawned on me. My eyes widened. My days began to lift. I straightened my neck and stood up. Surveyed the entire deck once, twice, a third time. The result was always the same. There was the split coffee, but that's it. So where the hell was the mug? I heard it shatter. I could understand some of it ricocheting into the ocean, but all of it? Every single piece? My heart began to flutter. I paced across the deck and stood directly over the puddle. I studied it. There was an imprint at the edge wide, rounded at the ends. I didn't want to check. But I knew I had to. I lowered my boot onto the imprint. It didn't match. The shoe that made it was bigger. Are they still here? I ripped the firearm out of my waistband, unlocked the safety, and began searching. They had to be hiding below deck. I swung the door hard enough to snap the bottom hinge. Descended the stairs, fire in my blood, itching to pull the trigger. The cabin was small and dusty. I looked under the cot. I searched the adjoining bathroom, which was barely more than a toilet surrounded by 4 walls. Hell, I emptied cabinets that were no bigger than a milk crate. I dug through the cubbies as if I would discover a McKenzie in the darkest corner of the tiny compartment. They're here. They have to be. I stomped back up the stairs but froze in the doorway, paralyzed by the sight that greeted me. There was this falling sensation. It was like I'd been pushed over the side of the well, and I was plummeting, sinking into myself, down, down, down. There it was. Not on the ground. On the console. A nice, neat pile of ceramic shards. A gift for me, accompanied by Joe's low, droning voice. You know, they're playful. Childlike. They enjoy games, Phil. I flew from the doorway. Scrambled across the deck, head on swivel. I ignited the engine and slammed on the throttle. The boat growled and sprang forward, surging like a thunderclap. They're here. They're toying with me. If they were behind me, would I even hear them? Don't think about it. I forced my mind to clear. Speculation was a venom. It would immobilize me, stun me, make me easy prey. The shore is only 10 minutes out. Just get your feet on dry land. Each second felt like a needle shoved under my nail bed. 9 minutes. 8 minutes. 7 minutes. I surveyed the ship compulsively. Whipped my skull around like it was weightless. I'd see them before I heard them, right? Don't think about it. Moments passed like kidney stones. The hull thudded along the tide. 6 minutes. 5 minutes. Jesus Christ, there's the shore. A horrific clamor emanated from below deck, the atonal shriek of twisting metal. What the fuck did I just hit? 4 minutes. I craned my neck and ran my eyes over the water's surface, but saw no obstacle, no debris. 3 minutes. The boat struggled to maintain speed. It felt sluggish. Heavy. 2 minutes. Dread sprouted through me like a cancer. I exploded from the helm and launched myself below deck, practically falling down the cabin stairs. The thrumming of a pressurized gush confirmed my fears. I couldn't see below the foamy water. I jumped into the ankle-deep pool and began frantically dragging my hands across the floor, hunting for the leak. My fingertips squished against drenched carpeting, over and over and over. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I grabbed onto something with my four-fingered hand. Soft. Wriggling. Plump. I think it was one of their tongues. Another shrieking crunch erupted behind me. Then another. A fourth. 1 minute. I clambered up the stairs on my hands and knees, raced across the deck, and leapt over the railing. I flailed towards the moonlit shore. Night had fallen. My breaths were wild and irregular. Gulps of black brine seared my throat. Salt stung my eyes. I felt something graze my leg. Something hard. I thrashed, graceless and rabid. Something similar scraped my shoulder blades. I wheezed and sputtered and grunted and prayed it wasn't them. The sandbar got closer and closer, and all of a sudden, I felt grit between my toes. I collapsed onto the beach. My muscles were jelly. Useless sacks of burning sinew hanging limply from aching bones. If they were there, it was over. I was over. I accepted that. Gentle waves caressed my broken body, ebbing and flowing, rolling quietly along the shore. Stars glinted overhead. Exhaustion took hold. My eyes fluttered, then closed. They never came. Or, if they did, I didn't hear them. Didn't see them. If they did follow me ashore, the McKenzies floated around me like ghosts, baring their teeth but never biting down. Maybe they were having too much fun to bite down so soon. I caught a glimpse of the boat as I leapt into the ocean. It was capsizing, so part of its underside was visible. I didn't see the McKenzies. I haven't seen the McKenzies since they disappeared from the deck, but I saw what was left behind. A clever hiding spot in a game I never agreed to play. Rings of peg-shaped holes littered the hall like poxmarks on diseased skin. Scars of where they'd bitten down. Backslash. That all took place 2 months ago. I don't think Gio expected me to live through that job. I think he sold me off to McKenzie family. Made me their plaything. Probably made a decent chunk of change while ensuring I never squeal about his trafficking operation. He's a soulless son of a bitch, but he's nothing if not efficient. Now, I live on the opposite side of the globe. I dwell in the slums of a country I have no connection to. I don't go by Phil anymore. I work in construction and keep my head down, terrified that even here, Gio will find me. It's lonely, but there's a kind of peace in that. A quiet asceticism that I try to be grateful for. The cockroaches that skitter in the walls of my apartment are probably all the company I deserve. This evening, when I returned home from work, I found a folded piece of paper that someone slid under my door. There was a symbol on the inside. 3 shaky lines drawn in black ink, vertical, then horizontal, then vertical. None of the lines were connected. Looked like a rotting capital H. I threw back shots of bottom-shelf bourbon and paced the length of my squalid home, staring at the symbol, attempting to understand. I assumed the note meant that Gio finally found me, but I had no earthly clue why he was leaving strange notes instead of vivisecting me with his carving knife. Just wasn't his style. Then, it hit me. This wasn't Gio, and it wasn't a symbol. It was a scorecard. I found the McKenzies first, and now, they found me. The score is 1-1. My head snapped towards the relentless skittering in my walls. They could be silent. They could be loud. Maybe they could mimic cockroaches, too. There's a hammer lying on the table. I'm waiting for the booze to give me courage. Then, it's time to play, and it's my turn to be the seeker. Dread gnaws at my gut, but I smile. It's strange, but I can't help myself. It feels good to bare my teeth. Alright, McKenzies. Ollie oxen free.